Okay, Rule 5 through 7. Question number 1. A, 2nd and 5 at the B40 with 48 seconds remaining in the second period. A11 is in a shotgun formation, receives a snap, and spikes the ball to stop the clock. This is a foul for intentional grounding, and it refers to 752-E exception. So the exception says it is legal for a player positioned directly behind the snapper to conserve time by intentionally throwing the ball forward to the ground immediately after receiving the snap that has neither been muffed nor touched the ground. Now, this is a new rule. That's why this question's here. The rule used. Okay, question number 2. K 4th and 9th, the K40. K9 punts the ball. R26 signals for a fair catch at the R31. After R26 muffs the kick, K23 pushes R26 so he can recover the ball. Legal. The rule reference here is 624. If we go to 624, it really doesn't talk about this. It talks about a K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick while it is beyond the neutral zone or the expanded neutral zone, provided such a kick has been touched by the receiver. But it doesn't talk about the legality of the pushing. And but 935B actually, and then it also refers to 652A, which is a case book, in a different spot. Sorry about that. 652A. During a scrimmage kick beyond the expanded neutral zone, R1 gives a fair catch signal. He muffs the kick into the air, where R1 catches it 5 yards in advance of his muff. K2 pushes R1 in an attempt to reach the ball. And it says in B, the contact is legal. Because K may retain possession following the muff by R. I don't know how that makes the pushing legal. What if it was in the back? Well, 935 actually deals with that, and it says a player shall not block an opponent in the back except in the free blocking zone. We've talked about that already. Using hands and arms to contact an opponent above the waist in warding off a blocker, or when attempting to reach a runner or catch or recover a loose ball, which he may legally touch. So he can, K can legally touch this because R has muffed it, and this allows a player to block in the back. So I guess or push in the back. So this particular rule is not spelled that clearly in the rule book, but it is true. Matter of fact, the K player can actually pull the R player away from the ball to get to it. So don't rule that holding, and don't rule the push illegal if we have a ball rolling on the ground. Of course, if it's a personal foul, that's a different story. But bottom line is, this one is true. Okay, question number 3. A 1st and 10 at the A28 at the snap. A67 advances a step into the neutral zone but has no one to block, so retreats to help A75 block B66. Legal. All right, so this rule 7512 was modified because excuse me, this last part of the rule, and ineligible is not illegally downfield if at the snap he immediately contacts a B lineman and the contact does not continue beyond the expanded neutral zone. People were interpreting that to mean that if there was no one to block, if there was no way, that it was illegal for the offensive lineman to to enter the neutral zone. And so they eliminated that part of the rule just to make it clear. So now any offensive blocker can be in the expanded neutral zone legally without whether they're blocking somebody or not. So this is true now. All right. Question number 4. A 2nd and 5 at the B32. A12 is calling signals when linebacker B51 moves forward and stomps his foot in an attempt to get A to false start. Penalty, 15 yards for a disconcerting act. So this is a new rule. 719, it's right here. No defensive player shall use a disconcerting act or words prior to the snap in an attempt to interfere with A signals or movements, and the penalty table tells us that this is 5 yards, a 5-yard penalty. This used to be a 15-yard penalty, but NFHS changed it this year, and so be aware that it is now a 5-yard penalty, and don't be shy about using it if you think that the defense is truly, trying to match the cadence of the quarterback, or as you say, stomp his foot for a false start. Feel free to use that 5-yard penalty. All right, so the answer here is false. It is now a 5-yard penalty. All right, question number 5. A 4th and 10 at the B37. K15 punts the ball. B22 muffs the kick at the B3. K21 recovers the ball in the end zone. This is a touchdown, true or false? So, you newer guys, it's really important that you understand the difference between a muff and a fumble. Okay, let's look at the definition of a muff. A muff is the touching of a loose ball by a player in an unsuccessful attempt to secure possession. And you can see by the definition there, a ball in player possession is a live ball held or controlled by a player after it has been handed or snapped to him, or after he has caught or recovered it. So he does not have possession. So essentially the kick continues. Even though R has touched it, the force is still K's kick, okay? And as soon as that ball crosses the goal line, and just like any kick, it is a touchback. Now, let me make it clear that had B22 caught the ball and subsequently fumbled the ball, and then it was recovered in the end zone, it would indeed be a touchdown. Okay? But if it's simply a muff, and this is what we see the most often, it goes through their hands, it bounces off their hands, that is not possession, that is a muff. K can recover it, but they cannot advance it. Okay? And if it gets into the end zone, it's a touchback. So the answer here is false. All right, question number 6. A 4th and goal at the B5. A12 throws a pass toward A89 in the end zone. A89 muffs the ball and it falls complete. The ball is placed with the rear end on the B5. A 1st and 10. Okay, this is the only time we really ever move a ball, even though we're not moving it. And if you understand the question, and there's a casebook play that explains this very well if you don't understand it. But basically, if the nose of the ball is on the 5-yard line for the offense, and then we have a change of possession, that ball doesn't move. Okay, the nose of the ball for the team that's gaining possession is now a football length in front of the 5-yard line. It's 11-inch difference, okay? But we don't move the ball back so that the front nose of the ball is on the 5-yard line. We leave it where it was. And we have to move the sticks in that case. just a little bit, 11 inches. But, don't screw this up. A lot of guys just are too lazy and will move the ball. Don't do it, all right? If you're being observed and an observer sees you do it, you're going to get marked down. So just leave it where it is. It's that simple. All right. So the ball is placed with the rear end of the rear end on the B5, which is true. Okay. Okay, guys. This is a tough one. Strap in. And for you new guys, try not to get too intimidated by this question. Fourth and 12 from the K36. K12 punts the ball. During the kick, R holds K28 at the K45. So this is a post-scrimmage kick foul. Okay. The enforcement for a post-scrimmage kick foul is where? The end of the kick, right? After the punt hits the ground, it is touched by K14 at the R28. This is known as first touching. Okay, let's look over here. Get rid of this stuff so you can see this. During a scrimmage kick, it is first touching if the ball is touched by any K player in the field of play beyond the expanded neutral zone before it is touched there by R and the ball has come to rest. Okay, why is that important? Because first touching is an enforcement spot, and it is a spot that R can return the ball to if it wants to, basically. So now after the first touching, K86, so R22 picks the ball up and advances to the B40 where he fumbles. So now we've got a fumble. K86 recovers the ball at the B42. If K declines the penalty, they will keep the ball. Okay, and the rule reference is 625 and 625C. So 625 is one of the most convoluted rules in the rule book. I'm not saying it's not well written, but there's so many ifs in this thing, it makes your head spin. But basically, it talks about first touching, and then it says, such touching is ignored if it's caused by R pushing or blocking K into the contact with the ball. That makes sense, right? If any K player touches a scrimmage kick in this manner, R may take the ball at the spot of first touching. That's what I was referring to earlier, that R has the option to take the ball wherever it was touched first by K. Now, we're talking about a situation where K touches the ball but doesn't down. In other words, they don't stop it. They don't smother it. They don't put their hand down and stop it. It's still moving. Okay. Okay. They can take, so R may take the ball at the spot of first touching, or any spot if there is more than one spot of first touching. Don't even go there. Or they may choose to have the ball put in play as determined by the action that follows the first touching. So what they're talking about there is if K first touches, but the ball is still bouncing around, and this savvy receiver says, I got nothing to lose by picking this ball up and running with it, and he takes off and he, makes it past the spot of first touching, they can have it there. The R can keep the ball at where the play ends. This next part is where it gets dicey. The right of R to take the ball at the spot of first touching by K is canceled if R touches the kick and thereafter, during the down, commits a foul, or if the penalty is accepted for any foul committed during the down. Now, we had a foul by R on this one. So, R doesn't have the the option to take the ball at first touching, and K recovered the fumble. Okay, so if K declines the penalty, they will keep the ball. That's a little bit misleading. If we go down to the casebook, if they decline the penalty, then R will get the ball at the spot of first touching, because we do not have an accepted foul. Okay, that was part of it. Remember that up here. Therefore, after it commits a foul, or if the penalty is accepted, right there, that's important. Okay, if they decline it, then R gets the ball at the spot of first touching. They're not going to do that, right? So the only option that K has is to enforce the penalty. And so this is a loose ball foul, a loose ball play. K is going to get 10 yards. It'll be 4th and 2 at the K26. That's where we're going to end up. And if your head's spinning right now, that's okay. Read that 625 case. It'll help you. But the answer to this question is false. And this is after an hour of me digging through the rule book that I came up with this. So there you go. Okay, question number 8. A free kick is not automatically repeated after a multiple foul. And the rule reference is 618. So 618 says a free kick is not repeated unless a foul occurs prior to a change of possession and penalty acceptance requires a replay of the down, there is a double foul, or there is an inadvertent whistle during the kick. I think the test maker is trying to help us remember to distinguish between a double foul and a multiple foul. A double foul is when each team commits a foul. Those are offsetting, and we're just going to replay the down, right? Multiple fouls are when one team commits multiple fouls. And it's possible that one of those multiple fouls could fit this foul occurs prior to the change of possession, the penalty acceptance requires a replay of the down, but it's not automatic. Okay, so the answer to 8 is true. Now this answer was originally keyed false in the template that we got from CFOA, so you may have gotten this right but marked wrong. I've corrected the test and also rescored all the tests that have been taken. Okay, question number 9. A 2nd and 6 at the B30. A 78 lines up as the fullback. After the snap, A 15 throws a backward pass, which is caught by A 78, who runs to the B20. Is that legal? Now, you have to know a few things about high school numbering rules. Basically, numbering rules say that there have to be 5 players on the line of scrimmage, numbered 50 through 79. Any player who is numbered 50 through 79 is not an eligible receiver and cannot touch a forward pass. Okay, if he does, it's illegal touching. So, is it legal for a 78 to line up as a fullback? Absolutely, as long as there's 5 other guys on the line numbered 50 through 79, that's fine. If we go to 742, here's 7-4 and 2. If a fumble or a backward pass is caught or recovered by any player, he may advance. Okay, so a backward pass is treated in the rule book as a fumble, basically. It almost all the rules regarding backward passes are it's a fumble. Yeah, if a backward pass is dropped, it's live. Okay, if it goes out of bounds, okay, it's spotted where it went out of bounds, just like a fumble. So when you hear the word backward pass, get that password out of your head and think fumble. The fumble rules apply to a backward pass. So the answer to question number 9 is that this is legal. And he doesn't even have to report. There's no reporting in high school as an eligible receiver. All right, let's move on. Okay, question number 10. A 4th and goal at the B7. A89 blocks B22 in the end zone. So this offensive player blocking a defensive player in the end zone, and A26 catches a legal pass at the B3 and runs for a touchdown. If B accepts the penalty, it will be B's ball. Now, I don't like this question because they didn't even, what penalty? What's he talking about? Well, you have to know that 7.5.10 says it is forward pass interference if any player of A or B who is beyond the neutral zone interferes with an eligible opponent's opportunity to move toward, catch, or bat the pass. That is the pass interference rule right there, cut and dry. Doesn't say offense or defense. It said it is forward pass interference if any player of A or B. Okay, so the reason this question is here is a few years back, if there was defensive pass interference, it was 15 yards and an automatic first down. If there was offensive pass interference, it was 15 yards and a loss of down. Well, the High School Federation, in their infinite wisdom, decided to get rid of that loss of down and automatic first down because they felt like officials just weren't calling it enough because they were afraid because it was such a big penalty. So now, if we go down to the penalty table, 7.5.10, it's simply 15 yards. So in this case, it would be still A's ball. It would be 4th and goal at the B22. We tack on 15 yards from the B7. This is a loose ball play. The enforcement spot for a loose ball play, say it with me, is the previous spot. So, okay. So, it will not be B's ball. This is false. Okay, boys and girls. Believe it or not, this question has taken me the most time to get correct and to explain to you. And I'll explain to you why as I go. It's a simple question. A 2nd and goal, B at the B5. Before all A players are set, A10, who's a quarterback, receives the snap and spikes the ball to stop the clock. Okay, we know that the rule's been changed, that the quarterback can spike the ball from, he doesn't have to be under center, so that's not a foul. But the fact that they're not set is a foul. A is penalized 5 yards for an illegal shift. That's what the foul is. And the clock will start on the ready for play. And originally, the test maker referred to 752 exception and 752F casebook study. So if we go to the 752 exception, it's the exception. It's the new rule that says that the quarterback can spike the ball as long as he's directly behind the snapper. In other words, from the shotgun or pistol. 752F, I don't think it has a whole lot to do with this. What my concern was, the part that gave me problems was it said the clock will start on the ready for play, and I said to myself, well, doesn't the offended team have the opportunity to take the ball on the snap or on the snap or on the ready? And that is not even referenced here. I added that 347, and so I went to 347 and I read this 100 times and I just didn't read it right. It says when a penalty is accepted. Now, I'll point out that this question does not tell you how much time is left on the clock, but why is he spiking the ball to stop the clock unless we're close to the end of the game or the half, right? So let's assume it's under 2 minutes. When a penalty is accepted with less than 2 minutes remaining in either half, the offended team will have the option to start the game on the snap. Now, I had always understood that rule to mean that they had the choice of starting on the ready or on the snap, but it only says on the snap. So that's the only option the offended team has. They can choose to have the ball started on the snap if it normally could have started on the ready. I hope that makes sense to you. So that's the only option the coach has. He can choose to have it. The offended coach can choose to have the ball started on the snap. So the question, the answer here is false because he cannot. The ball will not start on the ready for play, right? Because the ball's been grounded, so it's an incomplete pass. The clock normally starts on an incomplete pass on the snap, and that's where it's going to start on this one. So the answer is false. Okay, question number 12. A 2nd and 10 at the B42. A14 throws a pass to A87. The ball bounces off his hands. B22 attempts to catch it, but is pushed away by A26. The pass falls incomplete. Ruling, offensive pass interference. So the pass interference restrictions and here is the definitions in 759, and it gets a little confusing. A says pass interference restrictions and on a legal forward pass interference restrictions on a legal forward pass and for all eligible A players when the pass has been touched by any player. Now, I think we have to assume here that A26 is an eligible player based on his number. Let's just assume he is. And the ruling that they cite is 759A, which gives it more credence. So that means that once that ball is touched by anybody, A cannot commit pass interference. And then it goes on to say all eligible A players when B touches the ball. However, it is not pass interference for ineligible players to use hands and arms in a legal way to ward off an opponent. I don't even know what that means. There's a really, 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 really good explanation of all of this in the Reading Guide. And if you happen to have the Reading Guide, it's on page 39. I would read that several times. It's excellent. But for the purposes of our question, let's go back. We know the restrictions have ended, so we can't have pass interference, so this has to be false. Okay, question 13. K 4th and 7 from the R25. K8 attempts a field goal. Now, remember, a field goal is a scrimmage kick. It is not a free kick. So the scrimmage kick rules apply to a field goal, just like it's the same rules that apply to a punt. Okay, the ball goes off the side of his foot and bounces at the R8. R24 muffs the ball, and it is recovered at the R9 by K80. Ruling, K, 1st and goal at the R9. And the rule reference is 624. And we've covered this already. So it says, any K player may catch or recover a scrimmage kick which is beyond the neutral zone, which this is, or the expanded neutral zone, provided the kick has been touched by a receiver. That's what we have, right? who was clearly beyond the neutral zone at the time of the touching. Definitely, this guy was beyond the neutral zone at the time of the touch. Such touching is ignored if it's caused by K pushing or blocking R into contact. You're going to see that phrase in almost all the kicking situations. Okay. Or is caused by K legally batting or muffing the ball into R. So remember, K can bat the ball back towards its own goal line. So this is that situation where you see a ball going towards the end zone, and the K players are trying to keep it out of the end zone, and they bat it backwards. If that ball were to hit an R player, that would not constitute a muff by R. Okay. Such catch or recovery by K beyond the expanded neutral zone causes the ball to become dead. Okay. So it sounds like K has satisfied all the conditions to retain this ball. So the answer to question number 13 is true. Okay, another difficult question. K, 4th and 7 at the R49. K6 punts the ball. The ball bounces at the R15 and touches the foot of K26. So ask yourself right now, what is that? Okay, and the answer is that's first touching by K. We've talked about first touching already, so I hope you understand that concept. Okay, so that's a spot that would be beanbagged by the back judge or the line judge, whoever's back there. R28 recovers the ball and runs to the R32 where he is hit and fumbles. K81 picks up the ball and runs for a touchdown, ruling touchdown for K. Okay, so first touching, right? When any K player touches a scrimmage kick beyond the expanded neutral zone to R's goal line before it is touched beyond the neutral zone by R, which is the case here. K26 was the first one to touch it, and before the ball has come to rest, it is referred to as first touching of the kick, and the place is the spot of first touching. Such touching is ignored if it's caused by pushing. Okay, you already know that. If any K player touches a scrimmage kick in this manner, R may take the ball at the spot of first touching, or at any spot if there is more than one spot of first touching. Again, we've talked about this. Or they may choose to have the ball put in play as determined by the action which follows the first touching, which, we kind of have here. Had R not fumbled, then I think the result would be that he would, if he was down at the R32 as opposed to the R15, we would take, the ball would be at the R32. So R15 is where the first touching occurred. Our player runs the ball back to the 32. Unfortunately, he fumbles. Okay, but if he hadn't fumbled, it'd be R's ball, first and 10 at the R32. All right, I want everybody to understand that. The right of R to take the ball at the spot of first touching by K is canceled if R touches the kick and thereafter during the down commits a foul, or if the penalty is accepted for any foul committed during the down. Now, we had that situation earlier, but that's not the case here. There is no foul. So even though K recovered that ball and ran it, in which they can't well, no, I take that back. They could have run it. It's a fumble. It's not a muff. But R still has the choice of taking the ball at the R15 where it was first touched by K. So this is not a touchdown. This is R's ball, first and 10 at the R15. All right, question number 15. A second and 8 at the B40. A17 throws a pass towards A88. B25 contacts A88 and the pass sails over A88's head. Ruling, no pass interference because the pass was not catchable. So we can assume that B25's contact to A88 occurs prior to the pass getting there. And if you look at 759, pass interference restrictions on a legal forward pass end for, and this list does not contain when a pass is not catchable. That is a rule in college and in the NFL. It is not a rule in high school. With that said, I would apply, common sense to this ruling. If a pass is clearly errant and just, nobody could catch it, be very cautious about throwing this flag. I would support you if you throw the flag because it's a rule, but from a game management standpoint, I would say, maybe not throw the flag. Just don't tell the opposing coach that the catch was not catchable. Just tell him in your opinion, it was not pass interference and it was not a quality throw, and leave it at that. So for the purposes of our test, this is false. Okay, question 16. K 4th and 9 at the R40. K8 punts the ball. R21 muffs. Remember what a muff is? No possession. The kick at the R2. K26 leaps and catches the kick at the R1 and lands in the end zone. Ruling, touchback. Okay, we've already discussed this. What force put the ball into the end zone? It was K's kick, right? And the rule says that it is a touchback if any free kick or scrimmage kick, which is not a scoring attempt or which is not a grounded 3-point field goal, breaks the plane of the R's goal line, unless R chooses the spot of first touching. So, even though K28 made a spectacular play, he possessed the ball maybe before he got over the goal line, the ball crossed that plane, and it's a touchback. Okay? This is a tough one. This is the one that's easy to blow. Okay? So remember this. A muff that goes into the end zone is always a touchback. Okay? Well, I shouldn't say always, but is almost always a touchback. So in this case, the answer is true. All right, question number 17. A 1st and 10 from the B47. As A18 throws a legal forward pass to A88, B63 tips the pass and it continues towards A88. B26 contacts A88 before the pass reaches him. The pass is incomplete. Ruling, legal, no pass interference. All right, so the reference is 79C. And we've talked about this particular section for quite a bit. Pass interference restrictions on a legal forward pass and for all B players, this is C, when the pass has been touched by any player. So, once the pass has been touched by any player, B can make contact and it's not pass interference. So the answer to number 17 is true. This is legal, no pass interference. Question number 18. It is not a foul if A has only 6 players on the line and 4 players in the backfield. 7-2-5A. This question is here because we used to have a rule that said there had to be 7 men on the line of scrimmage. That rule was changed last year or 2 years ago. I'm not sure. There's a change in the rule book this year under that same rule, 725, and I want to show you last year's wording because it's simply an editorial change. Player formation and numbering requirements include, this is 2019 rule book. At the snap, at least 5 A players shall be on their line of scrimmage, and no more than 4 A players may be backs. Okay, and then at the snap, at least 5 A players on their line of scrimmage must be numbered 50 to 79. Okay, the 2020 version says, where are you? 725, right there. They've changed. Now it says player formation and number requirements include no more than 4 A players may be backs, and only 1 A player may penetrate the vertical plane through the waistline of his nearest teammate who is on his line, as in 723, and at the snap, at least 5 A players on the line of scrimmage must be numbered 50 through 79. I don't know why they felt compelled to add this extra verbiage about only 1 A player may penetrate the vertical plane through the waistline of his nearest teammate. Anybody got a clue what they're referring to right there? What they're talking about is the quarterback. Okay, 723. Of the 8 players of A who are not on the line at the snap, only 1 may penetrate the vertical plane through the waistline of his nearest teammate who is on the line. He must have his hands in position to receive the ball if it is snapped between the snapper's legs, but he is not required to receive the snap. Any other players must be in legal position as a back. Whew! Okay, so they're stating the same thing twice. I'm not sure why, but let's get back to the original question. It is not a foul if A only has 6 players on the line and 4 players in the backfield. That's true as long as 5 of those 6 players are numbered 50 through 79. So question number 18 is true. Question number 19. A first and 10 at the A30. A18 runs to the A32 and then throws a backward pass to A24 at the A28. A24 then throws a forward pass to A88 at the A42. Legal. The rule reference is 751. So let's take a look. It is a legal forward pass if during a scrimmage down and before the team possession is changed, a player of A throws the ball with both feet of the passer in or behind the neutral zone when the ball is released. Only 1 forward pass may be thrown during the down. Okay, so this is a trick play. You've probably actually seen this play before, especially in the pros. So the backward pass, remember, is not, none of the passing requirements apply to a backward pass. So as long as the pass is backward, we're fine. He catches it. Again, if he fumbles that thing, it's a live ball. It's not an incomplete pass. If it goes out of bounds, the ball is spotted where it goes out of bounds. I've covered this already. So we only have 1 legal forward pass, which is a requirement of 751A. I'm sorry, 751. So this is true. This is a legal play. Okay, question 20. This is my 3rd shot at this one. I keep getting K and R mixed up. I hope I don't do it again. All right, here we go. K, 4th and 6th, the K22. K18 punts the ball. R22 signals for a fair catch, but muffs the ball. Remember, you new guys, the difference between a muff and a fumble. A muff, there's no possession. This ball is live. It's still a kick. It can be picked up by another K player or that K player and advanced, and it can also be recovered by R. It can't be advanced by R, but it can be recovered by R. Okay. So, R22 signal for a fair catch. He then blocks K26 to prevent him from recovering the ball. Ruling, foul for an illegal block 15 yards from the PSK spot. And the rule is 651. And I'm really glad that the test maker included this question. This does happen, and we need to make sure that we call this foul. So it says any receiver, 651 says any receiver may signal for a fair catch. That's anybody on R can signal for the fair catch, okay, while the legal kick is in flight. They can't signal fair catch after it's grounded, but while it's in flight, they can signal. Any receiver who has given a valid or invalid fair catch signal, so it doesn't have to be a perfect, fair catch signal, is prohibited from blocking until the kick ends. And if we take a look at the penalty table down here, 651, blocking after giving a valid or invalid signal, it's 15 yards. Okay? So notice that it says 15 yards from the PSK spot. So here's some extra credit. What is the PSK spot in this case? Well, raise your hand if you think it's where the ball was touched by R, where he muffed it. Okay, that's one choice. Raise your hand if you think it's where R recovered the ball or the ball became dead. That's the correct answer. And the ball can become dead, mainly the ball would become dead either by going out of bounds or going beyond the goal line, and it's a touchback. For some reason, the rule book always mentioned the ball just laying there. Well, that just doesn't happen. Okay, so forget about it. That could happen. If the ball's just laying there dead and nobody's touching it, it is technically dead. So, but let's forget about that. So let's say in this case, the ball's muffed. It continues on down the field and goes into the end zone. All right. So where's our PSK spot? Well, this is a touchback, right? So our PSK spot is going to be the 20-yard line. And we are going to enforce the penalty from the 20. Normally it would be 15-yard foul, but because we're on the 20, it's going to be half the distance to the goal. The end result is going to be R's ball, 1st and 10 from his own 10-yard line. Oops, one last thing. The answer is true, not false. So make sure you mark that A. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I think I have one more, and I think it's the 8 through 10 test, and then I think we have to do the classification test, and then I'm done. All right, we'll see you on the other side.